What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Sloppy Saturdays. And today we're going over the American Conference. The American Conference has some major news coming out of it in the last couple of days. When we look at Memphis offered a $200 million bid to get into the Big 12. They got denied within like 20 minutes. The news broke out. And then also continuing on, Jake Retzlaff, who we had a video coming a couple of weeks ago. We had a video out on him. We are going to continue the news as he commits to Tulane in the American Conference. So two major topics in college football we're getting into coming out of the American Conference. Now, first things first, we're going to go over the $200 million bid by Memphis and why I believe it was denied by the Big 12. Now, when you look at group of five teams, Memphis is definitely one of the most accomplished group of five teams. If you're going to take a team out of the group of five and put them into a Power Four conference, Memphis is definitely at your first top 5 to 8 picks for a group of five team. When you look at them, they have won 4 straight bowl games. In the last, I think, 6 years, they have the most conference wins in the American Conference as well. Their passing attack was really good last year. They won against West Virginia in a bowl game. So Memphis definitely is a team that could definitely move on to a Power 4 conference eventually. Why I believe their $200 million bid got denied, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was very surprised that this bid got denied. $200 million is a lot of money to be offered. I'm even kind of surprised that Memphis did offer this. But at the same time, a team like Memphis definitely wants a little more credibility. They want more of a chance to have a path to the college football playoffs one day. So it didn't surprise me that they did offer this. It's just so much money. And it was a little surprising that the Big 12 did deny it. But I do understand why the Big 12 denied it, and I'm going to tell you guys why I believe so. When you look at the Power 4 conferences, the Big 12 is probably the weakest. When you look at their odds and the win totals in the Big 12, every single team in that Big 12 conference is like 2 or 3 wins separation in their win totals in Vegas. And when you look at that Big 12 conference too, when you look at Kansas State, Arizona State, arguably being at the top, the favorites in that conference, there is nobody in that conference that is a national championship contender by any means. And when you look at the Big 12 conference for a Power 4 conference, they're probably going to be the only conference in the Power 4 that has one team consistently come out into the college football playoffs, which, again, I think they're trying to make this conference stronger and stronger and have the ability to have 2 or 3 teams come out of that conference in the college football playoffs one day. I don't think they're trying to make that conference get weaker. And although Memphis was one of the best group of 5 teams in recent memory, they're going to make this conference weaker. They're going to be at the bottom or the middle of that conference for a while before they ever get to the top. So that's why I believe they declined that $200 million bid. Again, it was a very strong bid that could do a lot for teams in that conference. But again, they're not trying to make that conference weaker. They're trying to compete with teams like with conferences like the ACC, SEC, Big Ten, and they're obviously the weakest conference right now, and they want to keep growing that conference. I agree with what they did, honestly. I don't think Memphis should be joining the Big 12. I would like to see the Big 12 get better, obviously, as in the last couple of years, powerhouse teams in the Big 12 have moved on. That conference needs to get stronger. They shouldn't have added Memphis, even though it was a very strong bid. Now we're going to get into Jake Retzlaff as well. Jake Retzlaff, a guy that has a very interesting offseason, to say the least, in college football. He got basically forced to leave BYU after violating their code of conduct. Now, we know BYU has a very strong code of conduct. Obviously, you can't have sexual intercourse. And he was accused of a big lawsuit. That lawsuit gets dropped. So, again, obviously other teams were open to acquire him. But he did ultimately break the code of conduct for BYU. Obviously, they have strict rules, and he has to leave. He walks on to Tulane. I'm going to talk about why I believe it's a home run for Tulane and Jake Retzlaff. Now, for Tulane, 100% a home run. When you look at Tulane and group of 5 teams, they are one of, I believe, the 3 teams that have a real shot of making the college football playoffs and getting a bid for them if they have a spectacular season. Again, they go with BYU and Liberty and Toledo for me of like 3 or 4 teams that I think have a legit shot, have a legit pathway of making the college football playoffs like Boise State did last year. And when you look at Tulane, this team has really used a transfer portal like no other team in the country. They are one of the most active teams in the transfer portal. I'm going to say home run for Jake Retzlaff and them. Obviously, for them, they got a quarterback that has won in a Power Four conference. When we look at Jake Retzlaff at BYU, again, not one of the most eye-popping seasons, not one of the most eye-popping quarterbacks, but he was a team that led BYU in this Big 12 conference to be 11-2 last year. And again, the way the schedule panned out, he was not able to make the Big 12 championship, but they were a contender in the Big 12 throughout the whole entire year. So I think it's a home run for them getting a winning quarterback in a power conference. And not only that, the way he decided to leave BYU, he walks on to Tulane, so they get him for nothing. They have the most talented quarterback in their room, a quarterback that have won in a Power Four conference, and they get him for absolutely nothing. It was a home run for them. And again, it's not a easy pathway for Jake Retzlaff to start on this Tulane team because, again, you're talking about 3 weeks out of college football, so he's going to have to learn everything pretty fast. Again, he is a veteran. He's a senior in college football, so it should be easy for him to learn the playbook. But you're talking about a limited amount of weeks. It's going to be very interesting to see if he starts game one, especially in a deep quarterback room for a group of five team. You look at two other transfer guys, Brendan Sullivan and Kalen Tamanza. When you talk about both of them, one of them tearing it up at Ball State, the other one of them being in a Power Four school in Illinois. So, again, a very deep QB room. I definitely think Jake Retzlaff is the best option. It's going to be very interesting to see, though, if Tulane can get him ready to start week one, because he definitely is the most experienced guy in the room, and he definitely is the most talented guy in this room, and he could definitely give them the biggest ceiling of possibly being one of those group of five teams to make the college football playoffs. When we look at this Tulane schedule, which we're going to go over, they really have to go nearly perfect. They could only afford one loss, very similar to like a Boise State last year, to make the college football playoffs. Because when you look at them, they play Northwestern. That's a game that they're going to have to win. That's going to be one of the more, I guess, premier teams on their schedule, even though that is kind of crazy to say Northwestern. Then you go South Alabama. They're going to have to beat Duke for sure. That's a game they're going to have to win. And the game against Ole Miss is like going to be their only loss, but they have to really be competitive in that game. If that's very similar to Boise State last year against Oregon, where it's a close game and they can be competitive throughout the whole game, that's going to be one of their biggest cases to make the college football playoffs. And they have to beat Tulsa, have to beat East Carolina. Army's going to be a very tough game for them. They have to beat Army. They have to beat UTSA, obviously. Very oddly enough, they play Memphis, going to have to beat them. Florida Atlantic, Temple, and Charlotte. So, again, a very light schedule. But against Duke, they're going to have to beat. Against Army, they're going to have to beat. And against Ole Miss, they're going to have to keep that game tight. But, yeah, I think this is a home run for both sides. Like Jake Retzlaff, it would be very tough for him to join a Power 4 team and start right off the bat. Again, a Power 4 team would have to look at him as a significant upgrade, and you have to learn everything right away. But joining the most contending group of five team, one of the most contending group of five teams, and having a pathway to start right away, and having a possible path to making the college football playoffs, I absolutely love it. And for a walk-on for Tulane to get the most talented quarterback in your room, a quarterback that's won in a Power 4 conference, it was a home run for them. That wraps up this episode of the American Conference. Drop down your thoughts on both topics, and Sloppy Saturdays is